Hi guys, and good afternoon, creeps. Hi guys and creeps. So hey guys and creeps, I just wanted to talk to you guys. I wanted to talk to you about what I was talking about in the live this morning, and the little clip that I had made about mad doctors and mad scientists. The purpose of this video is to educate the kids, the younger people, on the subject matter of mad doctors and mad scientists. When I was growing up, this was a common term to describe doctors that killed people. They were known as mad doctors and mad scientists by the older people in our communities back then. It was something that had happened back in the days, and the people today think that Frankenstein is a fake story. Okay, just to give you a little rundown. Okay, I'm in my 40s. My grandfather was born in 1919. Talked to relatives today and found out his father was born in 1869. Okay, so I can trace my genealogy back to somebody that was born in the 1800s. And he was a very old man that died of cancer. Not Mr. J.C. Detroit Tiger. Mr. J.C. Detroit Tiger just died, which was my grandfather. He died of natural causes in Las Vegas, Nevada. He was born in Oklahoma, and he died in Las Vegas. So what had happened was, me and my grandfather used to have private conversations. And one thing that I had remembered that he had said, he said, if anybody ever give you a diagnosis from a doctor's office, always get a second opinion. And then he would start talking about how when he was growing up, they didn't have doctors, and that they had these doctors that would make house calls. When he was growing up in Oklahoma, they didn't have hospitals, and that the doctor would come to the house doing house calls. Okay, so then what had happened was, he had lived a very tragic life, extreme poverty, because he lived through the Great Depression, and he also lost a family member because of a fucking thing called polio. Nowadays, the children have to all be vaccinated against polio. But when he was telling the story, he said that massive people had died of polio, kind of like what the coronavirus is doing today. So he had lived through all that, and then he, started working for Ford Motor Company in Detroit. And he was always a hard-working man. And he eventually retired from Ford. But we would have private conversations, and what would intrigue me is the stuff that he would tell me about these mad doctors and these mad scientists. He would complain that these people were killing people back in the old days. And back when he was growing up, his dad, who was born in the 1800s, would tell him stories about this doctor named Frankenstein. This man was known all over the world as the worst mad doctor, the mad scientist that this planet had ever seen. And when I was growing up, the old people were scared to death of this story about Dr. Frankenstein. When somebody was old and they remembered the story of this horrible man named Dr. Frankenstein, it would send chills down their spines of a goddamn hospital ward. Every time it would come, the Frankenstein movie, which was made in 1931, it would come on as a black and white movie on Channel 50 in Detroit. I grew up in Detroit until the age of 19, and then I lived most of my 20s in Miami, Florida. So what happened was, the old timers, if you during Halloween, they would ask you if they saw you at the store. I wouldn't even know who these old motherfuckers were. They would just stop me and say, "Hey baby, did you see the Frankenstein movie last night on Channel 50? I say yes. And then they would go on to start warning me about mad doctors and mad scientists. I was given strict warnings that doctors will kill you, because their grandparents had told them about Dr. Frankenstein. Nowadays, I got people in the chat that's arguing with me and saying that Dr. Frankenstein was a work of fiction. Old people remembered all over the planet that it wasn't real Dr. Frankenstein. The tragedy is that these old people are going to their graves and they're dying and dead already. And now no longer is the Frankenstein Halloween costume one of the most popular costumes that the kids wear. I can remember taking my daughter Ashlyn out. I don't think I saw a Frankenstein costume. But when I was growing up, the Frankenstein costumes were the poppin'est, hottest costumes. Because it would spark up the old people. The scared, if they wanted to scare some old people, they would wear the goddamn Frankenstein costume. Every now and then you would see a mad doctor or a mad scientist costume. And nowadays you don't see any of the mad doctors or the mad scientists or the Frankensteins walking around during Halloween. So what happened was, a lot of little kids, they like to dress up as Freddy or Jason Voorhees from. So it was always the biggest three was Frankenstein, Jason Voorhees, and Freddy Krueger. Okay, when I was growing up, every goddamn little kid wanted to be one of those. I was always just the raggedy busted witch looking gruesome creature. I never got a proper costume when I was growing up. All I had was some goddamn painted or lipstick or makeup or anything I could find to just smear all over my goddamn face and just look like a gruesome ass zombie bitch. Whatever I could think of. Nobody even asked, "What are you, dear?" It was just the most gruesome, ugly face that I could paint on my goddamn face. I was always just a dead zombie looking bitch with paint everywhere. I never got a pretty costume. But whatever. We'll talk about that. I don't give a fuck. I just wanted to go trick or treat. Okay, so anyway, you do what you got to do in the poverty-stricken areas. That was poverty-stricken, broke down West Side Detroit, between Puritan and Pilgrim and Hamilton and Woodward, 6 Mile and shit. So anyway, what had happened was I wanted to educate the children. This is the children, the under 30. Don't think that Frankenstein was fake. Frankenstein was a real fruitcake doctor. So what happened was I started, trying to do some research because I was previously almost murdered several times in the hospital ward by mad doctors, mad scientists telling me to swallow medications and injecting me and probing and probbing and drawing blood all the time. When they start taking a lot of blood, they're using it for scientific experiments. And I was tired of somebody trying to kill me in those wards. So I started doing investigations on the old stories of mad doctors and mad scientists. And nowadays, nobody uses those terms anymore. We have got to start using those terms again. And we have got to start calling these people what they are. They're just mad doctors and mad scientists. They're Dr. Frankenstein's gone wild. What do they kill these people for? For insurance fraud. So, they get paid for the medication that they give you. The pharmaceutical companies give them anywhere from hundreds to thousands of dollars for pushing pills on innocent people. So it's the pharmaceutical companies. And don't ever take the advice of a commercial when they say ask your doctor about Prilexa or Disbazepine or Clozapine or Depakote or Respigol or things you can't even pronounce. Then they politely tell you a possible side effect is kidney failure, liver damage, heart attacks, and stroke. And I'm thinking to myself, who in the fuck is going and asking their doctor for clozapine? What they do is they practicing on you. A lot of people don't realize that when they go and ask their doctor, that's part of the scientific experiment. That's called a first tier, excuse me, pardon me, I don't remember the actual terms. I've done research on it. I think it's called a first tier pharmaceutical, or I could have it wrong. It could be the third tier. I might have my numbers wrong, so pardon me. It's called a tier when it's in investigative purposes, where they can't do a scientific experiment on a dead body or an animal. But what happens is the scheme works like this. You go ask your doctor for clozapine for whatever. And then when you come back complaining of all your serious ailments, then the doctor gets paid about $1,000 per report, so that when they get all these side effects, they can write down that you were one of the part of the research guinea pigs. Being tested on will cause you to die, because they don't even know how to recover your fucking, once you get kidney damage, because it does damage your kidneys, or you could have a heart attack or a stroke. You could blow up and expand with a lot of water, and once water gets around your heart and your heart can't pound, it can also break an artery or something. It can cause serious muscle and tissue damages from those medications. Well, the fact that they kill you is not that they do it on purpose. They just basically don't give a fuck about you at all. What they care about is their greed and their love of money. And they love to live in lavish houses and mansions and drive fancy cars and eat at fancy restaurants, just living off of human life. They're nothing but parasites and leeches and assholes and weirdos. Okay, so let me tell you about what happened with the Dr. Frankenstein. Okay, so I called to the grave using witchcraft. I'm a witch. I called out to the grave of the dead bodies of this Dr. Frankenstein. Okay, so what had happened was this man was, okay, so according to what the graveyards communicated through me, through the satanic pentagram and a Ouija board type thing that I create on my own paper, and calling out to the dead to respond to some fucking madness. I'll get a response real quick through a candle, through some lights. And it's just some ghosts that are from the dead world of wherever the fuck the dead was from. And a lot of times they're resting in peace because they died so tragically. And they're waiting to be reborn as another human somewhere. Some of these people are already gone on to different lives. But there's other people from the graveyard that knows what happened to some of these people. Okay, so what happened with the dead people? Okay, so what happened was he was a doctor. He started off originally as a very smart, or so-called smart. They all start off thinking that they're extremely smart. I'm talking fast because I don't have that much space on my SD card. So what happened was he started off as a respectable doctor in a medical field. And he was always experimenting on people secretly. Whenever they would come to him with a cold or a fever or something, he would make some type of concoction that he claimed would cure their ailments. So he just started, getting greedy. And he just started fucking people up for no apparent reason other than to make them sicker, so that when they got worse, he could make more money off of them. And he was just making them, like, they would come in for a cold or a fever. Then he would give them something that would purposely make them worse with all these different side effects. And then eventually they would have so many things gone wrong with their bodies that they would end up dying on them. Well, he had done it so many fucking times. And he had fucked with the wrong person one day. This is why people don't know who they fucking with. So he had fucked with this man that he had killed. And this man was a warlock or a sorcerer or a wizard. So was his wife was also a witch. And they had got suspicious as they were dying, as this man was killing them. And they knew how to get out of their grave as a ghost. All witches and warlocks and wizards and sorcerers, Luciferian Satanists, we all know how to do that. We know how to spook and haunt you, and we know how to come back from the dead. It's a very simple process. We know how to do it. So if you fucking with a wizard or a warlock and they know how to come back and spook and haunt you, they're going to fuck you up, and they're going to keep on fucking you up and you can't never get rid of them. They're going to haunt and spook your house forever. Okay, so what happened was he had fucked with the wrong man and woman one day. He fucked around and he ended up killing them. So the husband and wife went to their grave, and they were mad than a motherfucker that this man named Frankenstein had killed their ass. This is what the grave was screaming to the planet. And this is why it was creeping and freaking the whole planet out during this whole Frankenstein fiasco. Well, the grave, so these people had came back and haunted his house. And they demanded that he explain why he had killed them like that. So this man, Frankenstein, had promised this man He had told the man and the wife that he had the capabilities to bring them back to life and that he would heal their bodies. And he was really scared because he didn't know that there was a such thing as ghosts. Well, they started spooking and haunting his house and fucking his house up because ghosts can move things. They can throw things, they can break windows, they can break mirrors, they can if a ghost is mad, then a motherfucker that you done killed them, and they come back and start spooking and haunting or bringing shackles through your to chain you up or fuck you up some kind of way. Well, they can spook and haunt and do all kinds of damage to your house. And how are you going to get rid of them? You don't know how to get rid of them. I do. But if you don't know how to get rid of them and you're the motherfucker that killed them, you can't get rid of them because they're ghosts. Okay, so what happened was a husband and wife had came back from the dead and they just started fucking his house up and throwing things. He was scared than a motherfucker, and as people saw him, his face and his hair started growing long. He stopped taking care of his body. He started stinking, and he had told the government, I think he was from Switzerland somewhere, he had told the government that he needed to get some bodies from out of a graveyard. It was Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein. He told them that he had come up with some process that he knew how to get people back from the dead. He started begging them to please give him some type of certificates. And the government was intrigued by this man because they knew that he was a brilliant doctor, or so they thought. So they were intrigued and they were curious if this was actually possible, because he had explained a somewhat logical process, and the world was curious as to, can this man really bring these people back from the dead? So the man was getting crazier and weirder. And the government, out of curiosity, wanted to see what this man was going to do with these dead bodies. So they politely unearthed the bodies and dug them up. And they gave him the bodies. Well, the man would wear this white coat and have these glasses on, just like the modern day asshole that you see walking through the halls killing people. So what happened was, this motherfucker had actually started experimenting on these dead people, and he was frantically trying to bring them back to life. He was doing everything possible, and there would be people coming in and asking him questions, and why it had made worldwide news is because these government officials had believed that he could do this shit, or it was just part of the investigation. And just in case this was really true, they started putting it on telegraphs all around the world that this Dr. Frankenstein was supposedly able to bring some dead people back to life. The whole world was shocked and creeped out by this shit, that it was dead bodies in this man's office all the time. So what they had kept telling him, you have a certain amount of time to work on these dead bodies. We need to see what you're doing with them. And at the same time, this man was being haunted and spooked. He was losing sleep. He couldn't sleep in his house. He was frantically trying to promise to this dead couple that he was going to do anything he could to bring them back to life, and that he was sorry that he had done it. And he was apologizing to these ghosts all the time. And he was fruitcaking and freaking out. His weirdness was he was starting to look all bug-eyed. Then his glasses were crooked half the time. Then his hair would be all puffed out. And then he was having that Einstein look for a minute. I actually noticed that about Einstein, but I know he didn't do anything. But I noticed that when somebody was like into science, but with dead bodies, they would start having that wildy look to them. Mad scientists all look the same. Mad doctors, mad scientists. Even when you see the female, when they got those little glasses kind of hanging down on their nose, and then they got that white coat on, they give me the creeps, because you can tell a mad doctor, mad scientist from a mile away. All of them are creepy to a certain extent. Now, it's different doctors that do good things, like surgeons that deal with bones. They're doing good things because they can't do anything bad. You got good people out there and you got bad people out there. Good people are when they doing surgeries for bones, or doing beauty surgeries like correcting noses, doing rhinoplasty. Those are good people that can't profit off of somebody's death. If they're profiting off of life and beauty, they're good. If they're making sure that your bones heal up, they're good. But when it's just somebody that's a pill pusher or a Medicaid fraudster, those are bad ones. Okay, the ones that give you misdiagnosis, misinformation, plaster you with medications for the wrong shit, just making up shit as they go along, constantly ordering lab tests, constantly ordering blood work, constantly telling you that you got this wrong with you, you got to take that medication, then that one don't work, then they start putting more medications on you. Just dumb shit like that. That's one of those weirdos. That's one of those mad doctors, mad scientist types. So what happened was this man was freaking out. He became all, and then what happened was he found out through the graves that the dead people knew how to use electricity, and he started finding out through these ghosts that bodies were electrical. He started finding out all kinds of other stuff from these ghosts because the ghosts knew about electricity. And once you start talking with ghosts and you start seeing electricity, he was just a smart guy, but he was using his brain for the wrong shit. So what happened was he started thinking that he could use electrical forces, and he started electrocuting bodies, trying to use electrical forces to bring them back to life. He was putting blood inside of their veins. He was doing all kinds of stuff that wasn't going to work. I'm not going to tell you what happens to a body once it goes, but it starts recycling. And once the body starts recycling, you can't go back once it goes into the recycling process. Once the body goes, everything recycles. Everything recycles. Whether you see a dead leaf on the ground, it degrades and it goes back into the ground as dirt. When a body decays, it goes back into the ground as dirt, and whatever is left goes back into electricity, into different facets of worlds. Even some people, when they get old, this is something that the Luciferians know. When we use the Star of Satan, our goal is to eventually reach our own Star of Satan, and the Luciferians believe in the morning star. The reason why we wear the star is because we know there's another planet from Earth that one day we hope to get to. So we wear the Star of Satan because we feel like that's our father planet. And when we get wise enough or old enough, our goal is to get eventually to the Star of Satan. So our electrical forces, when you see all these stars in the sky, I'm not going to tell you all the Luciferian techniques of finding the Star of Satan. When you see stars in the sky, that means some electricity is going on. If something is shining and flickering, that means there's life there. And that means that electricity is there. If it's flickering and flashing and flashing and flickering, that means electricity is flowing. That means there's life. Something is beating and pulsating and making it flash and flicker. So if somebody tells you there's no life nowhere, period, and you look into the sky and there's billions of skies, billions and billions of miles and miles of stars, there's planets that got their own sun. There's all kinds of different things that I could tell you about. We'll talk about it one day. But right now, if something is flashing, that means there's power. That means there's life. That means there's fire. That means there's electricity somewhere. Okay, so nothing is just going to flash with nothing for no reason. It's going to flash because there's force and power and electricity and life. Something is blinking and breathing. Okay. So once a person dies, that electricity has to flow, and it has to go back into the earth, and it has to be recycled as another person. Or if you're an animal on a lower structure, then you go into another animal structure, but you got to keep moving. You can't just stay in the ground forever. So if you're recycling, then you can't, if you're in recycle mode, you can't go backwards. Once that body is gone, it's dead. It's history. It's nothing but dirt. It's got to be recycled. So, doing all that stupid shit, doing all that to a human body is never going to work. You cannot bring nobody back to life. And this brings me back to the when it happened was, my grandfather used to always tell me that when he was growing up, they had went through this period of people called the grave robbers. I also learned about it in school. I think this was around the 1940s. Somebody was off into robbing graves. They were called the grave robbers. And when I would ask people why were they robbing graves, and then somebody said, well, because they were stealing metal and gold out of people's teeth, and stealing people's wedding bands and jewelry and shit that they died with. The grave rob. At that time, they didn't bury people 6 feet under. People had shallow graves, and they would pile people on top of each other. My great grandfather that had died, that was born in the 1800s. He had a wife that was buried on top of him. It was 2 people inside of a grave. A lot of people do that. Even nowadays, when they die, they actually ask to be buried together or side by side. His wife was buried on top of him. I went to visit his grave, and it did say that he was born in the 1800s. So he was around when the grave robbers were popping. He was around when Frankenstein was popping. And then if he wasn't around because now I go back and I check to see when Frankenstein was born. Then they changed the dates, and people are trying to make us forget about Frankenstein. Going around trolling, saying that Frankenstein was a fictional story. Frankenstein was a real goddamn weirdo. He was nothing but a mad doctor, mad scientist. And those people robbing those graves were probably just some haunted, spooked out motherfuckers. And they were trying to do the Frankenstein, trying to bring somebody back to life. Once somebody is dead, you can never bring them back to life. If there's a new Frankenstein that's trying to figure out how to bring somebody back to life, there's always going to be a weirdo that's going to try it. But the point of the video, let's keep Frankenstein's legacy alive. Let's make sure that when we have Halloween this year, that some of the kids go out dressed up as Frankenstein. We have to remember that Frankenstein was real, and we have to start telling people to stay out of hospitals. They're doing nothing but killing people, and if the government is not going to protect us from these mad doctors and these mad scientists, then we have to start getting the word out. If people like me are not going to be promoted on YouTube, and all they're going to do is promote the Sway House and the Hype House Boys and Charlie and Dixie just dancing on TikToks, and I got important messages to people, but I don't give a fuck about YouTube, whether they promote me or not. There's always going to be somebody out there that's going to watch. So if it says that this video only got 2 views, and then you go to Charlie and Dixie's boring ass, and they got 2 million views on a stupid ass video where they're not even talking about a fucking thing that matters, then you're gonna know that YouTube is nothing but a fucking loser organization. And that's why they don't have B. Scott. That's why they don't have No Oil for Show. That's why they don't have NV69. They don't have so many people that was popping before Google purchased it. All the popping people are basically gone. And back when I had started on YouTube in 2008, it was real motherfuckers with real jobs. They were working in all types of fields of jobs. I was working for Delta Airlines. There was people working just at Dollar Tree. There was people just working at car rental companies. There was just people, garbage collectors. There was just all kinds of real motherfuckers. When they would get home from work, they would talk about how their work was, what they would do when these things, and then people basically could record and film back and forth. And then it was people just doing dance battles back and forth. It was Chicago. It was the crew of girls, the transgender girls from Chicago. It was a crew of girls, transgender girls from Atlanta. It was different worldwide girls that was doing dance battles. And then we had the ballroom girls from Atlanta and New York. And we had popping people that was real motherfuckers. And they were just real motherfuckers. And then what happened to these real motherfuckers? They just started getting no views at all. So they would get on there and complain that suddenly nobody wants to watch their videos. And if ain't nobody watching their videos, they're going to delete their fucking channel and move the fuck on. And what did they do? They did what they said they were going to do. They would just delete the whole fucking channel. Mimi Plastique from Chicago, she was also popping. Nowadays, she don't even record shit because her views be all fucked up. The only reason why I'm an oldie but goodie is because I got family and friends that watch my shit. So if two people watch, then I guess, I guess it's my aunt Jessica in Michigan. Maybe my cousin G in Las Vegas watched. Who gives a fuck? Okay, maybe 4 people watched. Okay, maybe Alabama Cotton watched in Coral Springs. Oh, maybe Jay watched in New Jersey. Who gives a fuck? I've been demonetized. So, I've been demonetized. So who gives a fuck? It's just friends and family watching. So I just record your friends and family and whatever random troll that wants to fuck with me. I mean, I guess that's it. But YouTube, when you're just squashing and stumping on people with real motherfucking issues, and instead you want to promote a Shane Dawson. But where is he at? He not even on YouTube. You gave him millions of dollars, then you put him in a big house, and then you pull the rug out from under him and demonetized his ass. Did the same thing to Jeffree Star, I guess. Put him in a multi-million-dollar house, then suddenly, boom, he ain't got no more content, nothing but ads. Then it happened with James Charles. He moves into a big house, suddenly, boom, he's demonetized. Where's his ass? Nowhere to be found. So now on my homepage is nothing but a 1,000 random motherfuckers, all with the same fucking boring shit. What I eat in a week, what I eat in a day. Follow me as I go spend a bunch of money. Clothing haul. Then it's an ad for this, and when it's clothing hauls, it be ads. Then it be wig ads, and it's nothing but ads and commercials. So what the fuck did you do to your goddamn platform? The real motherfuckers are me, and that's it. And Kevin Burrell, when he in New York, you ain't giving him no motherfucking power or nothing. And Kevin Burrell don't never get commercialized, because your content gonna fail and flop and be nothing but wrecked, failed motherfucking failures. You're better off on your goddamn own. Don't be chasing numbers. Don't be number clouding. Number clouding is when you're bragging about big numbers. I do need help on LionPuss, because I do need to be able to do lives. If I can't do lives on LionPuss, it makes it more difficult for me. So it's about me putting out my content in a live. I prefer, if you don't have 1,000 subscribers on a channel, you're not eligible to do lives. So in order to make my channel eligible, I have to do that. It's not about me being monetized. I don't want YouTube's money, because all they're going to do is fuck me over and give me $150 to $169. I don't want that piece of shit money. I'd rather not deal with the headache of people trying to tell me I can't cuss. People trying to tell me I can't smoke. People trying to tell me I can't do this or I can't do that. I do my own fucking production. I do my own fucking whatever the fuck I want. I ain't got to answer to no motherfucking body at no motherfucking YouTube. And I'll talk about that motherfucking stupid ass Frankenstein. I don't have to worry about no ads or no shit like that. I don't give a fuck about it. I do my own fucking thing. I've been doing this since 2010 when they demonetized. Offer me the monetization. Don't even offer me the monetization. Anyway, I'm gone. Live fiercely, love viciously, and remember, atheism is unstoppable. Bye, guys.